I see you're thinking about hiding from the IRS. Well, I have 4 reasons why you shouldn't, and no, prison is not one of them. Let's face it, sometimes life situations get so hectic that we forgo some of our responsibilities. Your busy schedule had you going full speed ahead, and now you realize that April 15th is come and gone. Or perhaps you have the feeling that you're going to owe a bunch of tax, and you're just not quite ready to face the music. Or maybe you haven't filed tax returns in years, and you're just enjoying a catch-me-if-you-can lifestyle with the IRS. Either way, that non-filed return has some issues that you may or may not be aware of. Number 1, penalties and interest. Not filing a tax return can carry some stiff penalties. The good news about these penalties is that they're calculated on the tax due. So if you didn't owe any tax, there's going to be no penalty. The bad news is that there's going to be 2 penalties that are going to be assessed on returns that have a tax due. The first penalty is failure to file, which is 5% of the tax per month. This penalty is going to cap out at 25%, so by the time you're eating Thanksgiving dinner, you've already been hit with that maximum penalty. The second penalty is failure to pay, which is 0.5% per month. This also caps at 25%, which allows this penalty to accrue for over 4 years. When you take into account that the IRS also charges 3% yearly interest, that 5-year past due tax return will cost you in excess of 60% of the tax due in penalties and interest. 60%? What the? Hey, I know what you mean, but come on, my kids are watching this. Number 2, statute of limitations. The IRS has time limits on most of their functions. For example, they generally only have 10 years to collect the tax that you owe. After those 10 years have passed, that debt simply vanishes from your account. The statute begins when the tax is assessed. When is that tax assessed? There are specifics to figuring the assessment date, but basically it's when you file the return. Another statute to be very concerned with is the 3-year statute on claiming a refund. Once this time frame is passed, that refund is lost, whether you filed that return or not. Number 3, the substitute for return. The IRS cannot begin to collect until they know how much tax you owe. If you do not file a return, they cannot assess accurately how much tax you owe. So that means if I don't file a return, they can't collect any money from me, right? Wrong. Enter the substitute for return. The IRS will generate this return based off of income statements that they've received, W-2s or 1099s, and likely without taking into account any deductions or exemptions that you may be entitled to take. With this, they will begin to charge penalties and interest as well as begin collection actions. The SFR does not count as a filed tax return, so this does not start any of the statutes. The issue is easily solved by filing return, but it does show how powerful the IRS can be when liens and levies are placed on your property. Number 4, the Fresh Start Initiative. When the Fresh Start Initiative was enacted by the IRS, it loosened up some restrictions and made it easier for some taxpayers to pay down their tax debts. For example, they lowered the qualification levels for the offer in compromise or the installment agreements. One of the main requirements to take advantage of these programs is to be compliant with your tax filing. This means that to be considered for an offer in compromise or installment agreements, you must be current in filing all back tax returns. Years of not filing tax returns can bring potential devastation to your financial life. Taxes are very often an afterthought to an individual's yearly financial situation, and that afterthought can be very costly. If you run into changes into your career or financial situation, take an hour of time and see one of our tax professionals to discuss what steps you should be taking to make sure that you're on the right track. Thank you very much for watching. If you need any help with your tax situation, call, comment, or email using the contact information below. If you found this video helpful or you just enjoyed watching it, please like it and subscribe to our channel. This has been David Hilliard with GrandfieldTax.com. Be well.